serve students on all three campuses. We bring you programs such as this one today. We also provide one-on-one free personal finance coaching sessions. So please also follow us on social media. If you don't already follow us on Instagram or on Facebook, we do a lot of our communicating and promoting a lot of our events announcements through Instagram. For those of y'all who are online with us, Gabby Pringle-Omanaka, our Student Engagement Center Assistant Director, is taking care of any questions you guys might have in chat. And our expert presenter this afternoon is Denise Knight with Texas Regional Bank, and I will introduce her here in a moment. A few housekeeping items. We are recording this program. It will be posted on our YouTube channel within 2 to 3 days. Please feel free to ask any questions throughout the presentation. If there's something that you want more clarification on, happy to help you, as well as online through the chat. For those of y'all who are online, there's going to be a 6-question, really quick anonymous survey that will pop up when you leave the Zoom meeting today. Please fill that out. It really helps us with feedback. It lets us know if this is a program that you enjoy and if what kind of programs you'd like to see in the future. Okay, so we are ready to go. Today's topic is another one of our most requested topics by students. Understanding credit reports and credit scores is very, very important, and we're fortunate to have a local expert with us today to help you learn how to read your credit report, boost your score, and avoid some common pitfalls. Denise Knight is an experienced financial professional with over 20 years of experience in mortgage, banking, and real estate. She holds undergraduate degrees from the University of North Texas and a graduate degree from Texas Women's University. Throughout her career, Denise has demonstrated a strong commitment to financial education, earning her designation as a certified financial education instructor. She's currently the community engagement coordinator at Texas Regional Bank. She plays a vital role in fostering community connections and promoting financial literacy. Her diverse background in the financial sector, paired with her passion for education and community service, has allowed her to make a lasting impact in the industry. We really are glad she's here. She's one of our veteran presenters. Please give your attention to Denise Knight.
Thank you. I hadn't heard that bio in a while. I was like, oh, wow, that makes sound really good. I'm just really a regular old person that really enjoys talking to y'all about financial education. It's a huge passion of mine. And like Shirley said, if you have questions throughout, please feel free to raise your hand, yell it out. I want it to be interactive. I'm here for y'all. And here's the thing too, I say like, you don't know what you don't know, right? So like no question is wrong, no question is bad. If no one's ever taught you this, which a lot of people have not been educated on financial matters, then you don't know what you don't know. So please just feel free to ask along the way. So we're going to talk about building credit, understanding credit reports and credit scores. There are 2 different things. So what we're going to do today is we're going to understand what credit is and why it matters to you. We're going to distinguish between a credit report and a score, 2 different things. Describe a credit report, what is all involved in that. Recognize factors that are used to calculate credit scores, and then discuss the ability to obtain and build credit. So by the end of this presentation, you should be knowledgeable on those things. Any questions before we get started? Okay, perfect. Okay, so most people borrow money at some point in their lives, right? Student loans, if you have any of those. Credit cards, those are loans. Credit cards are loans. You have to pay it back. A car, a house, nobody really has that much money laying around to buy these things. So it's true or false? The credit report and credit score only matter if you plan to borrow money. What do y'all think? False? Yes. False. Information in your credit report is used to make decisions about you. So it's not just about buying things. It's not just about getting credit. A credit score can actually keep you from getting a job or getting security clearance from a job, for a job. A poor credit score can keep you from renting an apartment, getting utilities for said apartment. Insurance, purchasing a car, getting a credit card or a loan, all of these things factor into your life. So, I mean, is anybody surprised to know that your credit can actually keep you from getting a job? Ever thought about that? Yeah, because people are employers, they're going to pull your credit. Not all of them, but a lot of them do. And it really is just a picture of how responsible you are in your life, in managing your money, and managing yourself. And so if that reflects poorly, you're probably not going to do a really good job at that job. And so they look at that, you're judged on that. So it's not just about buying things. Okay, so has anybody here pulled their own credit report? Yeah, looked at your credit report? Okay, so what is a credit report? A credit report is a statement that has information about you and your credit activity, past and present. That's important because past things are going to show up on there. Each of the 3 nationwide credit reporting agencies collects information about you to make their own report. So the 3 bureaus out there are Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. They're all going to have a separate report on you, and they're all going to have slightly different information and ways that they come up with what your credit score is. And so really, like we said, a credit report is an appraisal of your credit worthiness, how likely you are to repay your debts. That's really what your credit report is showing you. Have y'all heard Equifax, Experian, TransUnion? Familiar? Yeah, okay. Those are the main, or those are the only ones. Okay. So a credit report is created when you open a credit account for the first time and when the creditor, lending institution, whomever, reports that information to a credit agency. It's not law that the lenders have to report your credit to the agency. So 9 times out of 10, they do it most of the time that they do it. But for whatever reason, sometimes it's not reported. But both of those things have to happen. You have to apply, be approved, and then the creditor is going to report it. So if you've ever applied for a credit card, if you've ever applied for any kind of loan, student loans, you're going to have a credit report. There's going to be information out there. Is anybody here an authorized user on a card? We'll talk about that. But that, yeah, so that can be, there's good and bad things to that. We'll talk about that. But if you're an authorized user, you will have credit, you'll have a credit report out there. But if you haven't done anything, you're not going to have a credit report because there's simply not anything out there to report on you. So I know that some people, this is when I give my little spiel. I know that some people like think that credit is bad and we need to avoid it at all costs. That is certainly not true. Credit makes the money world go round. It just does. So chances are, if you want to purchase anything in the future, a car, a home, anything like that, you're going to need credit history out there because that's simply how the lenders look and see if you are worthy of lending money or not. So credit is not bad. Not managing your credit is bad, but credit itself is not bad. And we'll talk about ways for you to establish credit if you don't have it already. Any questions? Okay. Okay, so we're going to go over a sample credit report. This is just a sample. I've switched it up a little bit, so bear with me as I go through. This is my example from the CFPB. So I did not create this. But this is going to be just a sample credit report. Like I said, they're all going to look a little bit different because each bureau does it their own way, but you'll see the same general information every time you pull your credit report. So here's what we're going to find on here. We're going to find identifying information, and this is going to be your social security number, your date of birth, any names that you've gone by. If you've been married, you'll have your maiden and married name on there. You're going to have phone numbers. You're going to have, you're not an address. You're not going to include things such as race and ethnicity. It is illegal for a creditor to make a determination based on those factors. So you're only going to see just the identifying information with the check marks on there. Really, we just want to look and make sure it's accurate. It's not going to have every single address you've ever lived at. It's probably not going to have every phone number identified. Some, like mine pulls up with one of my parents' addresses on there. It's just whatever public information, you know. So just as long as it's familiar to you, that's okay. It doesn't have to be, like I said, every place you've ever lived or worked in. So any questions on that part? Okay. Oh, employment records. There you go. Okay, then we're going to have the public records section. And so this is going to be things like
financial public records. Okay, so if you've had any bankruptcies, if there's any judgments against you, collections, bankruptcies, there's more than two kinds, but the personal ones are Chapter 7 and Chapter 13. Each one stays on your record for a different amount of time. Hopefully you don't need to worry about that, but bankruptcies are going to show up on there. It's going to show the date that's filed. That's important because derogatory credit will eventually fall off of your credit report. It takes 7 to 10 years, but it will eventually come off. So that's why the date filed there is important. It's not going to have records of arrests or convictions. Those are not financial records. And you're not going to have marriage records on there. Again, just think everything is going to be financial. And then there's going to be adverse accounts. These are going to be collections. Again, every credit report is going to, I shouldn't say that. Your 3 reports are going to look a little bit different. It's going to have the same information on there. So some don't have like a section for adverse accounts. It'll just show individually whether it's a good line or a derogatory line. But this one, in this example, they're actually showing what's in collection. They're going to show the company that's owed. So what happens when items go into collection is, say that you have an outstanding electricity bill with TXU, and for whatever reason you can't pay it, it's been a while. TXU is going to turn that over to a collection agency, and that agency is going to be who is trying to collect that money. So that's why it's important to just denote, okay, the collection started because I was derogatory with TXU, but now whoever this collection is, I'm not sure who it is. Thank you. American Hospital Collections is the one that's actually collecting it. And in this one, you can see the original creditor was Regional Hospital. So just want to make sure that whenever you're seeing that, you know why there's 2 different things on there. Any questions about that? Okay, perfect. And then again, it's going to show the date filed, because with collections, mostly it's going to take 7 years for those to fall off. I just want to say a note on that too. I'm not giving financial advice. I'm just giving information. When you have a collection on your credit report, regardless if it gets paid or not, it still shows up as a collection. So say that this person goes and they, oh, it looks like they have. This is a great example. Okay, like I said, I've changed up a little bit. Bear with me. So this is a perfect example. See, on this one, the original amount was $302. That was what they owed. The hospital couldn't collect it. They turned it over to the collection agency. It looks like this person paid off this $302, but you can see it's still on their credit report. So just because you pay off the collection does not make it come off your credit report. That's important because it's still showing derogatory and it's still negatively impacting your credit. So there are ways to address that, probably beyond the scope of this presentation, if anyone has questions about that. But I just wanted to make sure that you guys know that if for whatever reason you do have something go into collection, just because you pay it, it's not going to come off your report. It's still going to stay on there. Any questions about that? Yes. It can, say if it's the university, if they turn it over to a collection agency, yes, it will show on there, but only if they turn it over. Okay. And I know some do. Yeah.
After so many years, if you leave the university and you have an unpaid balance, after 6 months, it'll go to collection.
So yeah, do whatever you can to keep those accounts out of collections. Again, I go off scope sometimes, but I just want you to have the information. 9 times out of 10, these companies are going to work with you before they go into collections. So we'll say Regional Hospital, you owe them $300. You just cannot make that $300 payment. Call them. Say, I can pay you $50 a month. They're going to go, okay, because they want their money. It costs them more to turn it over to a collection than they're going to make on it at this point. So if you find yourself in that spot, give that creditor a call, negotiate terms with them. It's really easy. They're going to agree to that. Okay. And then again, payment status, we talked about that. Okay. So there are two different types of accounts. This is an example of an installment account. The other one is a revolving. Does anybody have a guess at what the difference between those two are? No, that is okay. So this is going to be, like I said, an example of an installment account. An installment account is one where there is an ending date. There is a high balance and there's an ending date in it. So like on this one, you can see, what is this for? Does it say automobile? They bought a car. That's a loan. So an installment, their high balance was 12,400. The terms are always the same. They're going to pay $240 per month for 60 months. Once that 12,400 is satisfied, the debt is paid. The difference in installment and revolving is that installment literally just means that you're making the same payment every month, installment, paying that loan down. Whereas revolving, and I'll show you one of those, revolving is an example of like a credit card. That balance is going to fluctuate and your payment is based on what your balance is, and you may never ever pay that thing off. So that's why it's called revolving. It's always changing, whereas installment is going to stay the same. Make sense?
Mhm.
They're all going to have the same information on there. It's going to have whoever the creditor or lender is. Creditor and lender are interchangeable terms. Creditor, lender, same thing. It's going to have the count number on there always. It is always going to have the date opened. And it's going to have the responsibility. And so let's see, on this one, you can see responsibility individual account. That simply means what it says. It's an individual account. Whereas if you were to open it up with somebody, maybe there was a co-signer on the mortgage. If you're married and it's a joint, it's going to say joint on there. This one is individual. It's always going to have that on it. And then it's going to have the account type. So this one is an installment account. It's going to have the high balance on it. High balance simply means in this case, this was the loan amount. And you can see now that they have it paid down to $6,580. And then it's going to have the terms. So I talked to you about that. The terms are simply what the loan terms are. Again, when it's a loan, it's a fixed amount. So it's going to be for, on this one, 60 months, and it's going to be $240 a month. That's not going to change. And then we'll have the payment history, and you can see down here. Okay. I'm really not, not reported. I didn't come up with this. I'm not really sure why. There's some X's in September and February, but I don't know why. That's weird. But it looks like there's one 30-day late payment. I don't know.
Bottom line.
Oh, there it is. There you go.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's going to show that. Again, I don't know why the X's are there, but you get the idea. It's going to show that it has been paid or that there has been a 30-day late payment. It's going to go 30, 60, 90. After that, you're in trouble. Don't even find out what happens after that. Any questions on that one? Okay. And then it's going to have past dues. Like we said, we found that past due on there. Okay. And then this is going to be a revolving account. So again, the difference on this is an example of, it's called a charge account, revolving account, same thing, convenient credit card. Right? So convenient. It's going to have who the creditor is. Again, much of the same information. The account number is going to be on there, the date that it was opened, the responsibility. You can see on this one, it's a joint. So somebody either has a co-signer or a spouse or something like that on here. It's going to have the account type. So again, this is a charge account, revolving, same thing. And then it's going to have the credit limit. So the way that this is different when we were looking at the other one, the credit limit is $1,000 on here. It's going to show the high balance. So at some point they charged up to $723. Right now they're at $387. So the credit limit is just simply that, like it's replaced with the loan amount. This is what your credit limit is. You can go up to that. And then it's going to have the terms. So this one is just paid monthly. But again, that's going to fluctuate. So you saw on the other one how there were strict terms. This one is gonna be different, just depending on what that balance is, it's gonna affect the payment. And then the payment history. And again, we have an X on here and I'm really not sure why, but that's just weird. And past dues, obviously this one says open, never late, so they're doing a really good job on this one. Any questions about revolving installment, what you're looking at here? Nope, okay, awesome. Okay, looks a little bit different, but I wanted to bring this up as an example because it shows you what happens when you miss a payment. So on this one, you can see, it's a revolving credit card. Looks like their credit limit was $10,000. They're currently at $4,252. You can see down here that they opened it in July of 2018. This is what their balance was, and this is what their payment was. So you can see the payment fluctuates, the payment goes down as the balance goes down, or the payment goes up as the balance goes up. It's just fluctuating all the time. Looks like they were doing pretty good, and then over here in February of 2019, they forgot to pay it. We got a 30-day late on here. So notice that the payment was $130. Now what's the amount that's due the next month? $289. So it's not like you just forget to make a payment and then you're like, oh, I'll just pay $130 the next month. That's not how that works. Now you're gonna owe $130 for this payment that you missed. You're gonna owe another $30, which is what you probably originally owed over here, plus a late fee. So the reason I wanted to point this out is just so that you know, oh, I don't just pay the $130, I now have to pay 2 months plus a late fee on it. If you don't do that, say this person only paid $130 right here. Well, then they would still be late because they haven't satisfied that $289 minimum payment. And so if you don't satisfy that minimum payment, at least the minimum, you're gonna get another late, and we call that a revolving or a rolling late, which means you're 30 days late, but you made a payment, but you didn't make all of the payment, now you're 60 days late. You made a payment, not all of it, you're 90 days late. Does that make sense? This is called a rolling or revolving. It just snowballs on top of each other. And so make sure that, I'm going to say this 100 more times, make sure that you are paying at least the minimum payment due, at least the minimum. And then if you do happen to mess up 1 month, make sure you're paying what that full balance is. Otherwise, you're going to continue to get late. One thing that I do personally, I think it works really well when you do, does anybody have a credit card? Okay, so do you have it set up where your minimum payment is automatically withdrawn? I would strongly recommend that you do that. If you set up the auto pay for at least your minimum payment, and every credit card company lets you do this. If you set up your auto draft for at least the minimum payment due, you will never be late. You can always pay more, but at least that minimum is coming out and you're not going to have a late. I know life gets busy sometimes, you forget, whatever. Credit card company doesn't care. So just stick that auto draft on your minimum and pay more, but at least that minimum is going to get paid, and that's really what the main thing is. Any questions on that? Yeah.
How does a minimum payment work?
So, like I said, on a credit card is going to be, I don't know what the formula is, I'm not really sure, but it's going to be directly reflective of what your balance is. So, like I said, the higher the balance, the higher the minimum payment goes. If you're, when you pay it off, that minimum payment is going to continue to go down. I don't know exactly what formula is, and probably credit card companies have different ones. But the higher the balance, the higher the minimum payment is going to be. If it's just a regular, you know, I don't know, whatever card you use for gas, or you don't have that high of a balance on it, it's usually going to be $30 or something like that. But if you're talking like thousands of dollars, you're going to be like in the hundreds of dollars of minimum payment. So just know that.
So the interest rate isn't on this report, is it?
No, interest rate is not going to show. No. It's because it's just going to show what your history is. Yeah. And the reason that, and we'll get to this too, but I'll point it out while I'm here.
See, the credit limit on here is 10,000 and their balance is 4,252. Those are always going to be on there because one of the things that goes into determining the credit score is how much of that credit you utilize. So say that on this one, their balance or their limit's 10,000 and they have charged 9,900. That's gonna look like I'm financially distressed and that's gonna reflect poorly on my credit report. Whereas if I have a good flux of anywhere between 30, I mean, 30 is the sweet spot. 30 to 50% max on what you've used, you're still pretty good on there. When you start going above that 50% and certainly getting into that, like, you know, higher threshold, that's gonna be a red flag. You look credit distressed, so. But yeah, the interest rate's not gonna be there, but yeah, but that other influence. Anything else? Any other questions?
Okay. Boop, boop. Inquiries. Okay, I always get questions. People are so worried that when there's a credit inquiry on their report, it's going to affect their credit score. Yes, it does, but literally by like a point or two. So there are two different types of inquiries. Hard inquiries are made by lenders when you actually apply for credit. So you apply for a credit card. You apply for a mortgage. You apply for a car loan. Those are going to affect your credit score. Similar inquiries count as one. So for example, if you're shopping for a mortgage and you're trying to find the best mortgage rate, if you have 5 different mortgage companies pull your credit within a 45-day period, that's only going to count as one inquiry. That's actually smart. You're shopping around for the lowest interest rate. So there's some similar inquiries will count as one for a certain time frame. And like I said, hard inquiries, this is when you actually like you are applying for money and you are asking somebody to grant you credit. Soft inquiries, these are going to be like, have you ever gotten a credit card offer in the mail? Like you've been approved for, you know, whatever it is, or those are going to be soft inquiries. So promotional inquiries, those things that you get in the mail, background checks, annual free credit report. I'll talk to you all about that in a minute. That's not going to affect your credit score. So soft inquiries do not have any effect on your credit score. Hard inquiries do, but it's so minimal. So any questions on that? Good. Moving on. Okay, so credit scores. Credit report, as you saw, there wasn't any scores on your credit report. It's just literally that, a report of your credit activity and what you've been doing out there. Credit report is used to make a credit score, but they're two different things. So a score, excuse me, is a number that predicts the likelihood that debt will be repaid on time. Remember, everything we're talking about is repaying debt on time. Credit is a loan. It's expected to be repaid. We want to make sure if we're lending you money that we're going to get it back. So for like a GPA is a piece of information colleges look at when determining acceptance. A credit score is kind of the same thing. It just gives an indicator of how responsible you are. The higher your GPA is, the more responsible you probably were, same as a credit report. So again, Experian or Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, those are the 3 credit bureaus. They're all going to have a slightly different score on you. That's because their formulas are slightly different. I don't know what they are, but they just are. So as long as your 3 scores are in a range, I would say probably a range of 20 points between the two, you're good. If there's something bigger than that, a bigger discrepancy, you're going to want to look at that report and see like, you know, I can't even tell you what it could have been. Maybe they didn't report correctly. You're going to look and see, you're going to find out what that is. And that really, I mean, that honestly rarely happens, but it does, it happens. So just know that you're going to have 3 different scores out there. They should be pretty close to the same score. And then credit range. Credit scores range from 300 to 850. I've literally seen thousands of credit reports over the last 20 years. I've never seen an 850, but I've never seen a 300 either. So 850 is a really great thing to achieve. The highest ones, I have seen over 800. I have, but they're usually like older people that have had credit for, 20 years and they've maintained it really well. They've never had any late, but yeah, exactly. They've just been perfect as can be in their credit score. So I have seen above 800. I've definitely seen that. I've seen in the 400s. I've never seen below 400 though. But anyways, that's just fun facts. This is the range. You're going to have a number out there somewhere on that range. The higher, the better again. Okay. So how are these calculated? There are two different scoring models, FICO score and Vantage score. Have y'all heard of either or both of these things?
Yeah.
Okay. So a little bit of history. The FICO is called Fair Isaac Corporation is who developed it. I didn't know that, but I was just a FICO score. And then I started doing research for this. I'm like, oh, that's where that came from. So it was developed by an engineer and a mathematician. Actually, they developed this in 1956. And they started using this for like investments, investment companies and things like that. But then in 1981, it was introduced as a credit bureau risk score. So really, FICO or credit scores have really only been around since the early 1980s. Prior to that, how do you think that like people got loans and got credit?
If you owned land or collateral,
Okay.
rents didn't.
Yeah.
Rents
Yes.
did not
Right.
get loans.
So land is collateral because the collateral simply means that there's something for the bank or the lender to take should you not make that payment. So that, yeah, basically it was just on your reputation, or was it? Your standing in your community, judgment, it's very, very subjective. But yeah, it really was, and of course, you can understand that maybe like in the 1800s, but in the 1900s,
Really?
that's really subjective. So credit scoring, it's a good thing. There's 5 different categories representing a percentage of your score. We'll get to that too. And then, like I said previously, on the FICO, multiple same type inquiries count as 1 for 45 days, like we talked about the mortgage. Okay, the thing about the FICO, where the credit report needs to display at least 1 trade line that's at least 6 months old. So to have a FICO score, you have to have opened credit at least for 6 months, and then there needs to be some sort of activity on that. Difference in that, the Vantage score. This one was jointly developed between Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. You've heard those names before, right? So the credit bureaus actually developed the Vantage score. There's 6 different categories, weighted from extremely influential to less influential, essentially the same as the 5 categories in the FICO. They're weighted differently. On the Vantage score, multiple same type inquiries count as 1 for only 14 days, but a credit report, as long as you have 1 open trade line on there, say you opened a credit card yesterday, you're going to have a Vantage score. It's just that quick, regardless of age. So again, on this one, it's easier to obtain a credit score, but it's not as widely used. We're going to really focus on the FICO because that is the main score that lenders are going to look at when they're lending you money. Does anybody have Credit Karma? That's what the score that you see on Credit Karma, that's going to be a Vantage score. A lot of time on those credit apps, mostly what you're seeing is a Vantage score. And it's not wrong, it's not bad. They're just different. It's for different types of credit. So just know that the main one that you really want to be concerned about is your FICO. And they shouldn't fluctuate. There shouldn't be that much of a discrepancy between the two, but there can be. There can be. There's like all kinds of scoring models and different FICO 8.2 and all the, different things. So I'm not even going to try to get into that, but those are just the differences between the two. Any questions on that? Okay. In Credit Karma, those credit apps are good. They are good. They do give you a picture of what your credit looks like out there. It's just the lenders are not going to be, their lenders, my bank's not looking at Credit Karma when we're giving you a loan. We're going to pull your FICO score. Okay, so this is how these scores are calculated. Payment history, paying bills on time and as a grade, pay your bills on time.
pay at least the minimum payment on time, no matter what you do. That is the number one thing that can affect your credit score. Amount of debt, total owed and available credit remaining. This is what I was talking about earlier with the credit card, the $10,000 limit. You do not want to get above 50%, but ideally you want to stay around that 30% range of available credit to what you're using. Ideally, you want to pay it off every month. Sometimes that can't happen. That's okay. Just make sure that you stay down in that lower range of around 30%. And we're talking about of all of your credit out there. But if you look at it on an individual, you know what your credit card, you know what your credit limit is, you know what your balances are, and each of you have more. Length of credit history, as you can see, it drops down significantly. These are the two main things that if you don't pay attention to anything else, pay attention to those. Pay your bills on time and do not max out your credit cards. Two simple things. Length of credit history, how long the account has been open. We're talking about those older people that have managed their credit beautifully. Well, okay, that your credit score is going to go up because there's a history of how you've managed it, that length of time. So speaking of that, if you have accounts that you really just don't use anymore, you guys probably don't, but you're young, but when you get older, say you have a credit card or two, you opened up to get that, the points or the discount or whatever it was. Don't close that, leave that account open. It just shows that you have an established history of credit. You'll probably get a letter that says you haven't used your card in 2 years, we're gonna go charge something and pay it off with it. But don't, just because you're not using that account, don't close it. Leave it open because it does affect your score. Yes.
So say that I have a credit card that I took out because I studied abroad
Mhm.
and I didn't want to do a foreign transaction.
Mhm.
So if I now want to get another credit card through a different thing because of the points.
Yeah.
That wouldn't negatively impact,
No.
even if I didn't use the.
No, in fact, it's probably, like I said, it's probably helping you because it shows that you have established credit. You're not new to the game, right?
And even if it's a new thing, well, because I have Wells Fargo, right? That's
Okay.
where I got the ones.
Yeah.
But then say I want to get an Amex card.
Yeah.
Right? It wouldn't be like, because you've been talking about like the harding breeze and the softened breeze.
Oh, okay, so that is, like I said, the hard inquiries, that is going to affect your credit score minimally. I'm talking like a point or two. And that, that comes back really quickly. Sorry, not my words are struggling. Those point or two or whatever that you took that hit whenever you applied for that credit card, it's going to bounce back up the next month as long as you don't do anything stupid. So, yeah. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
So when you close, like, say, you've been paying on your student loans for like 20 years, you pay them off.
Mhm.
When you're done paying it off, does that history disappear?
No, so that's a really good question. So on things like that, student loans, those accounts, when you pay them off, they're gonna be closed because there's nothing left to pay on most of the time. That's what the case is. So no, it's not, positive credit history can stay on for a long, long time. It's the negative that's gonna fall off and you really want that to fall off. Oh, yeah. And then the next is going to be credit mix, so revolving versus installment. The main thing here is that the creditors don't want to see that you've got 25 credit cards and nothing else out there. You just want to have a good, you're most likely going to have more revolving than you have fixed, but you do want to have a good mix of that at least. And then new credit, new accounts opened and credit requests. So what this is talking about is say that you apply for 5 credit cards in a month and you get accepted for all of them. You try to apply for more the next month, it's not going to look good. Why are you applying for 5 credit cards? What's wrong in your world? So that's what it means right there. Just don't go open up, 5 different accounts and then try to go apply for a mortgage. You're going to be like, I don't think so. Any questions on that?
Okay, I'm gonna kind of fly through this really quickly. Credit score breakdown, we kind of are, I already showed you what the different ranges are, but this gives you the credit rating. And really, a rating is just a word that goes with what your score is. So you've got poor, fair, good, very good, and excellent. The higher the score and rating, the easier the approval process will be and the better the interest rate will be. Why does this matter? Let me tell you. Okay, so we have Lisa and Jamie. They both want to buy a car. They're offered the same purchase price, $15,999, and same loan term. We talked about terms, so this is going to be 60 months. The dealership uses their credit scores to determine their financing. Okay, Lisa has a 789, Jamie has 560. Look at the huge difference in the interest rate between those two. You can still get credit if your credit is not good. They will lend it to you, but you're going to pay a hefty price for that credit. Okay, and then the monthly payment, you can see the difference is because of the interest. So principal and interest. Principal is going to be a payment on your loan amount. We're assuming they didn't put any money down on these funds. Principal is going to be the same, $15,999. That part isn't going to change. The interest payment is what's going to change. So that's why there's a difference on, what is that, about $50 or whatever between the two. But look at the total interest over time. Lisa paid $950. Jamie paid $4,150. That's a difference of about I think that's 3,000 mental math.
Yeah.
A little bit over
It's a lot.
$3,000 just in interest. What is interest buying you? What are you getting for paying interest? Anything? No, you just spent $3,000. You guys, your credit wasn't very good. So that's why it matters. Yes.
Okay, so you said, okay, so if they paid in cash, like when they bought the car,
Mhm.
they would have paid the $15.99.
Correct. You don't need a loan or interest if you pay in cash. Yeah.
And so if they pay like a down payment, that would have like significantly brought all of that down.
Okay, sure. Like in this example, yeah, I mean, say they put $5,000 down, then they're only financing $10,999. So yeah, that's gonna make a big difference for sure.
I'm just kind of trying to like.
Yeah,
Never bought a
no,
car, so.
Yeah, no, this
Not
is
like
the
this.
point in this example. So the main thing on this is that the terms appear the same.
Yeah,
The loan amount and the term are the same. Everything else is different because of the credit score. Yeah. Any other questions on that? Okay, so you can see why it matters. Like I said, you can still get credit. They will give you credit. You're just gonna pay a lot more in interest for getting that. Yeah. Okay, so just to wrap up, know your credit report. Again, all credit is a loan. It's a loan, it's a loan, it's a loan. You need to pay it back, pay it back, pay it back on time, on time, on time. Okay. And then credit worthiness is just a measure of how risky you are. That's really what it is. Again, we'll loan you money, but we're going to make you pay more for it because you're a higher risk. So what can you do? You can request a free credit report every year for free. You can really just Google annual free credit report and it'll come up. It's a very simple process. Review your credit every 12 months. Even if you don't think that you have anything out there, look at it. Identity theft, somebody could have gotten your information. So pull that free credit report. Make sure that you're looking at it just to make sure that you're protecting your credit worthiness. Dispute any errors that you might see on there. And then moderate your usage. Again, keep your utilization below, ideally that 30% is where you want to be. This is for your benefit too. I mean, those credit cards, those balances can rack up before you know it. And then all of a sudden that minimum payment went from $30 to $230 really quickly. So for your benefit too, keep that ratio low. And then ways that you can build credit. I would suggest the best way for y'all at this stage in your life is two things. Student credit card, that really doesn't mean anything. It's marketed for students and they might be a little bit more lenient on it, but you still have to have income. Student loans don't count as income. So to get a credit card, you've got to have some income coming in. You can get a secured credit card. This is where you still have to get approved for it. It's not automatic, but you put a deposit down. Let's say you put $500 down on the secured credit card. And then so your limit is gonna be what your deposit was, so your limit will be $500 and you use it just like a regular credit card. But the safety net to that credit card company is that you put a $500 deposit down on it, so if you don't pay, they've got that money. You manage that well, and then a lot of companies will graduate you to a regular credit card. NerdWallet is a great source of information for this kind of thing. If you just Google NerdWallet secured credit cards, there's a whole list of on there. But again, you still have to be approved, but the approval is a lot more likely because you are putting that you're putting that down payment on there. The other way for y'all to build credit, which I highly recommend if this is a good option for you, is to become an authorized user on a parent's account. Now, their credit becomes your credit. That's great. When my son was 16, I put him as an authorized user on mine. I managed my credit really well. He automatically gets the benefit of having my credit history because I put him as an authorized user. It works in reverse too. If you're an authorized user on somebody that cannot manage their credit, that's going to negatively affect you too. So if you have that option, that's a really good option because you literally don't have to do anything. The parent just puts you on as an authorized user and you get the benefit of that. I do believe that it has to be a family member. Credit card companies have their different rules on that, but I do, most of the time it's gonna have to be a credit or a family member. And then pay your bills on time every time. That's all I can say. Okay, any questions? Yes.
I have a credit card and I paid off in full every month. But when I was like, my bank tells me like my FICO score every month. And I noticed that like, if I pay it off in full, like a week before the minimum payment due, my credit score is like higher. So it's been, like,
Yeah, yeah. You're paying it off. No, that's really, I mean, seriously, that is probably the best way to manage your credit and B, increase your score is to charge it and pay it and charge it and pay it and charge it and pay it. You treat it like a debit card almost. That's kind of the way that I do mine. Because they're really just looking for that management history. Are you good at managing your money? That's what's.
So I've been looking at a couple of credit cards, but a lot of them have these like hefty annual fees.
Yeah.
So what would you say, is it like worth it to actually take it out?
That is a good question that you're gonna have to ask yourself. So it depends. If there are points like travel points that you use and that annual fee outweighs, what you would save otherwise. Then yeah, that annual fee is a good thing if you're getting a good return on that investment. That's what I would say. Look at the return on your investment. So if the annual fee is $100, but by getting those points and using that credit card, you've saved $800 in your airline ticket, heck yeah, that $100 is a good investment. So just look at it that way. Yeah. Any other questions?
Yes. Any questions online?
if I'm just opening a credit card, should I start with small purchases?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that for you, for your benefit. Of course, you don't have to. The thing about credit is the way that you manage it, right? So like if you do small purchases and you charge it, pay it, that's gonna instantly increase your score like that. If you buy a larger payment or larger item, but you have, again, you've got to manage it. So if you buy that larger item and you have the means and the ability to pay it down, like in the course of a year or 9 months or whatever, just make sure you're following that, budget that you set for yourself. So make sure to question, yes and no. It doesn't really matter as long as you have a plan for paying it, is really what matters.
One of the little tricks that I guess it's not trick, but it's a tip. So do you have a subscription, Spotify, Netflix? How do you pay it?
My debit card.
Okay, so you have the money in your budget to pay that. So if you open up a credit card, put that subscription charge on your credit card and then just pay it every month. It's already built into your budget. So so if you if you use your debit card for gas, and you already know that money in your budget, just put it on the credit card, and as you say, you're building up a history and pay it in full on time. Boom.
And you could, I honestly do, I treat mine, I do like the debit card, especially my Amazon credit. That thing will add up really quickly.
But whatever I pay, say I spent $30 on Amazon today, well, I'm gonna get on that app and I'm gonna pay $30 to that card. So really, I'm treating it like my debit card, because you can make a payment anytime you want to. You don't have to pay it on the due date. So really, like Shirley said, treat that like a debit card and just pay it. You don't have to pay it once a month. Pay it the next day, I do use.
Do we have any questions from our online?
No, I don't see any in the chat unless somebody wanna unmute themselves.
Okay, anybody else? Questions? Yeah, anybody? Well, see, other guys.
Thank you so much, Denise. That's wonderful.
I have to run.
You're fine. You're
To
great.
go to another bank. That's okay, not my own bank. But there's my contact information, Shalice has it too. If you have any questions, seriously, this is my job and I really enjoy it. So they're a great resource for you, but if you have anything that I can help you with, please feel free to reach out.
All right, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Shay's gonna come up and mention a couple of things to our two students who are with us here, those who are online. I got them to speak.
Okay, so on November 12th, we're going to be bringing in, Sergio from,
Sally Mae.
Sally Mae. And he's going to be talking about life after college with your student loans. So if that's something you're worried about, figuring out how to pay that, how it's gonna look, maybe just the logistics of it, you can come see us. It's gonna be fully on Zoom. And yeah, from 6 to 7 p.m. November 12th.
Thank y'all so much. Did y'all check in? So Gabby put it off for.